I didn't want to believe what I believe now a year ago. I would have called me crazy. I would have said, don't listen to that conspiracy theorist. Don't listen to that. They're distracting from the real issues at hand. I was lying to myself. It's hard to make a video like this because nobody will believe you sometimes. But I know there's a lot of people out there now that believe, like I do, in what they see being real. I say they believe in what I see being real because if you look around, you can tell it's all true. The evidence is there. But it's almost like a naivete that we don't want to see it and believe it. We lie to ourselves. I think this is America. That'll never happen. How many civilizations around the world have said that can never happen to us? And it does. Rome could never fall. History's proven that wrong. Well, I think that I believe it now that I didn't believe a year ago. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are things that when you say them to other people, when you bring them up, they will say, how dare you dishonor their memory, or this or that. Wake up. Don't play the emotional game that says, oh, you can't say that. This is America, we can say what we want. So hear what I say, and listen to what I say. What if the deception was so massive as to be almost unbelievable? Wouldn't that be the greatest way to perpetrate the biggest offense against human freedom about the history of the world? To just make the deception so large, so big, and so epic that for anybody even suggest it would be just preposterous because nobody would believe that could happen. That'd be the perfect way to perpetrate that. Just make it so grand that nobody would believe it if you said it. Look at our system, look at our country, look at what's happening around us. You got a president who violates the Constitution flagrantly. He's a treasonous president. He's committed treason because he's shipping weapons to people in Syria that have sworn loyalty to Al-Qaeda. He was doing it through Benghazi after we sent them weapons when we were just supposed to be sending aid. And our ambassador, Stevens, was really the CIA and the government's gun runner. And look where he's been throughout his history as an ambassador. Everywhere he goes, we've been accused of dealing guns, just pretty much. The deception is so massive that it's disgusting. They have perpetrated mass killings in our country against its citizens to try to make us fear and use our emotions to rob us of our reason, common sense, and logic. Let's keep keeping that finger down and I can count, okay? But the Aurora, Colorado shooting, in the theater. People said there was somebody tossing smoke grenades from some other location besides where he was at. He got a phone call before he got up and went to the back door and held the door open for somebody or something. The Holmes kid. People say that. There's interviews on the internet. Go look for yourself. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. Go find out. You'll see it. And if the government wants to disprove that, Ben Swan asked this question. He said, if I'm a crazy psychopath and I'm wrong, the whole theater had video cameras outside of it. They videotaped all those emergency exits at the back of the theater, at the front of the theater. If they want to prove us wrong, show the tapes. I've called the Aurora PD. I've called the FBI. You know what? They blow you off. I've gotten a downright hostile message or two from them, or at the end of a conversation has been downright hostile. Show the tapes. Prove me wrong. We can just sell this, right? Sandy Hook installed a new security system earlier that year. It was on the news in Connecticut. Why isn't there a picture of Adam Lanza coming to the front of the school? Where's that tape? Why can't we see it? If he did it, and we're all psychopaths, And this was not some setup to try to like instigate gun control, which thank God it failed pretty much. If that's not true, show the tape. Prove us wrong. Better yet, go on the internet, find the videos of the Sandy Hook schoolhouse or the Sandy Hook firehouse, where the parents are going to meet the kids, and you'll see that they're crisis actors walking in circles around the building. That door they showed, where they didn't have the whole picture zoomed in, they're showing you a piece of the picture. They're walking out the door. They're walking around the side of the firehouse and back in the other side. Like a big fucking loop. They're even doing wardrobe changes inside. Because you can see that some of the same people, you can tell they are by the way they move, put like a different jacket on. You can call me crazy all you want, but I've fought believing this stuff. With my common sense, my reason, my logic, I have said, no, I'm not going to do that because you know what? It's going to devalue my opinion. Even if it was true, I wouldn't want to say it because you know what? People aren't going to listen to me then. I think I have an important message that our country needs to hear. But it's come to a point where I can't lie to myself anymore. Where I can no longer sit here and say to you that, oh, whether it's a bad thing, you know, but let's move on to the gun control issue and say this is not the answer to this, blah, 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 and not talk about the fact that it's a deception to try and rob you of your rights. Even 9/11, which is everybody's going to scream and yell at you if you bring this up. There's no way that was anything but terrorists. Maybe they were involved somehow. Maybe our government did ignore them, the threat or something like that. But I mean, there's videos of planes in the building that don't look like United Airlines planes. They found big pools of molten lead underneath the towers. That's what those fires were burning for months underneath. The building collapse doesn't do that. They got the gas shut off to the area. There's nothing feeding the fire down there. I mean, it's there's no, and it takes so much heat to make lead molten pools. You know, I mean, only thermite does that. And then look at the clouds that encompass the city. It looks like a pyroclast cloud, which is what you get when you detonate thermite. And then the World Trade Center 7, whatever that building was, that was not one of the two towers next to it that fell. Tell me that wasn't a setup detonation. And how do those big buildings fall so perfectly down on themselves like that? You see, if you think about it, it just seems so improbable that happened. I don't even like saying it to you because you know what? It's easy to write me off now. Look around the country at but you say, why would they do all this? What's the end goal? It's oppression. It's control. It's what it's always been. It's what people in power always crave: control. Look at our country and look at like the Federal Reserve. Look at it's privately owned. If we owned the Federal Reserve and it was really just our Federal Reserve, why when we borrow money from it do we pay it back with interest? Because somebody owns it besides us, and they're making a profit off this country. And printing our currency with quantitative easing and devaluing every dollar we own and everything we have. And taking the money out of our wallets through inflation, through higher prices, while wages go down as they destroy the economy with regulation and government involvement. Our government will do these things. They have done these things. They've been working towards these things. And they've been doing it for a long time. It's nothing new. Our government's even admitted the Bay of Tonkin in Vietnam that no ship there was ever sunk. This is a false flag. Vietnam was started over that battle in the Bay of Tonkin where that ship was sank that never actually sank. It didn't happen. And that was our excuse to get in the war. Think about the last honest war we had was World War II. When the globe was really threatened by tyranny and we all stood up and fought it back. Since then, it's been a lie. All the wars that we have waged since World War II, fighting in the Middle East and trying to, like, instead of drilling for our own oil, protecting that region, have just created more terrorists and more people that hate us. We kill 58 people for every real target we actually hit with a drone strike. You know what that means? That means that we're maiming women, children, and things like that just to get one person. And all those people have family members that hate us now. Why don't we focus in our country? Well, because then the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower warned about years ago, won't have all that money. There's been big people in American history that have known about these things, and a lot of them have been killed for it. JFK, one of the big things he did before he was assassinated, signed an executive order to end the Federal Reserve, to take our own currency back into our hands, and to make it ours again, and try to put something behind it, and end the farce, the atrocity that occurred at Jekyll Island in 1913, when the big families met, the Rothschilds and the Carnegie, all those people met, and they put together this thing called the Federal Reserve that's really a privately owned bank. Kennedy was trying to stop that, and he gets shot in the fucking head. And LBJ, who comes in after him, the first thing he does is what? Takes back the executive order and changes it, and keeps the Fed going. I didn't want to believe this stuff. I would have called me crazy. I would have said I'm a psychopath a year ago. But I am opening my eyes. I don't believe in some reptilian Illuminati. That's ridiculous. I don't believe in some hollow earth theory. I don't believe in weird shit like that. That's preposterous. And things like that are put out there and like made up to distract us and also to discredit some of the people who latch on to stuff like this, when there is a part of it that's all too real. Our government's interned people before in things like FEMA camps. They did it to the Japanese during World War II. Unconstitutional, warrantless, mass detainment. There's a lot of these residential housing facilities around the country. They're not residential housing facilities, really. I mean, they're pretty much prisons because they have double chain link with barbed wire, keeping people in, not out. I mean, and they're all by railroad tracks. Government owns cattle cars, but they don't have the amenities that cattle cars do, like the troughs and the feeders. They're pretty much human cattle cars. They own a yard of them. What's that for? What about the fields across this country of black coffin liners or casket liners? But you look at them, there's no casket they'd ever fit in. They're grave liners. And these ones, this company that makes them even calls them that. And the thing is, the ones they would use, when they usually would make these, they usually have a round top. But the ones the government got are flat for stacking. And they're big enough to fit a whole family per grave liner. And they very cleverly put them under the, CDC's bought them in case of epidemic. That'd be a great excuse for martial law, actually. An epidemic, a pathogen being released in the public. Have to protect us from it. Some people have gone and filmed these things. Their videos are out there. And a few of them, they come back and they find that after the people saw them filming there, they're all being moved to another location, all these coffins. Like, very quickly. Being moved. Keep them out of sight. You see, things are not what they appear. Things are not so simple anymore. Things are at a dangerous point. We are at that point where this goes nowhere good. It only will fall apart on us, and it will turn into complete and utter tyranny. We are at that breaking point where our freedom is in such dire jeopardy that if we don't wake up soon, we may not be able to get it back. But if we start rising up, what's going to happen? Well, they're ready for that. Look at the police state we live in. Look at The National Guard, a branch of the military, which under Posse Comitatus cannot be deployed on our own country, has been deployed several times. They helped confiscate guns during Katrina. They've been deployed in Anaheim, California, when the cops shot one unarmed guy twice in the head, once when he's on the ground already, and they picked the gun up, she's a mother, and they shot him again. She's crying because she saw it. They've done this. They tell you, you hear people saying, well, what do you need an AR-15 for? When we see them parading around DHS with armored personnel carriers and M16s, fully automatic AR-15s. We've forgotten what our founding fathers said, that the police should have no more power, or power to do nothing that we can't already do for ourselves. Cops can defend us, but we have the right to defend ourselves as well. But that's disappearing. They are creating a monopoly on force in this country. I no longer consent. Don't pay your taxes. Don't fund your own enslavement. You know how dangerous that is, though? Because if you go to court, I'm sure they'll come after me eventually. They'll probably come after anybody who does it eventually. Now I own a business, too. You know what they're going to do? You go in court and you're going to say it's unconstitutional, and the judge is going to not care? I mean, unless he's a good judge that loves America, but that's rare these days. And you're going to say, oh, well, we have to pay this much. No, I won't. Okay, you're under arrest. And the sheriff comes over and says, okay, do this. And you go, no, this is unconstitutional. He pulls out his gun or his taser, and he tases you, or you put your hands in your head when he pulls his gun out. You go, wait, whoa, buddy. Then he tells you to put them behind your back, and you release your fingers, and you go to jail. That duty and right we have to consent to our government, to retract our consent for its governance, does that exist anymore? Could you even feasibly do it without having to just be locked up? And when do the people in power ever give up their authority? You see, this ends nowhere good. It's too late for it to be nice to change it back. I make the analogy often that our government, the way it was designed by our founders, compared to a building, let's say, is like a two-story house. And our founding documents that support that government are made for that two-story house. They're made for a small, non-invasive, non-oppressive government. And over the years, our politicians who somehow think it's their right to regulate us, when we have unenumerated rights, unnumbered, unlimited, and the government has numerated rights, enumerated, where it means it's numbered and specific and limited. They think it's their right to regulate us. How fucking backwards is that? But back to the analogy. We've built on those foundational documents, the founding documents, the foundation for that two-story house as government that we're supposed to have. We have built a 100-story building on them. And even if we could get the right politicians to dismantle the top 98 stories of the damn thing, unless we reset to zero, back to the Declaration, maybe the Federalist Papers, and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, unless we reset and just start from scrap and re-pour that foundation, that foundation is still crumbled from the weight of the original 100-story building that we built on that two-story building. We have to start from zero to keep this going. We have to scratch it all, and when it happens, you have to take away the legislature's ability to regulate and pass domestic law. Let them be concerned internationally, and that's it. Because as long as they can make laws that have something to do with the inside the borders of this country, and the Constitution can handle all disputes, believe me. You can bring any argument to me. It can handle it. It's all we need. Our founders knew that. But if we give them the right to govern and to make domestic laws, we give them the right to peddle influence. To do what they've done to capitalism and corrupt it into corporatism, where they pick the winners and the losers, and they give their buddies bailouts, and there's too big to fail. Instead of letting things work, and when somebody does a bad job running a business, it fails, and somebody comes in and does a better job, or they get the competition who does it better and runs an honest business succeeds, and they fail. That line of thinking has died because the influence they've peddled has allowed people who steal from their customers and their investors to not fall flat in their face. The SEC has made it impossible to keep honest books I mean, because of the SEC, things like Enron have happened. And you can thank Teddy Roosevelt for that. Republicans, Teddy Roosevelt's no hero. He was a progressive. See how this conversation goes everywhere? Because when you talk about beliefs, it's a whole system. And they have to be congruent, or your truth isn't really truth. I know I have the truth. I know I can define freedom and balance my personal beliefs at the same time. That's the important part of freedom. We look at the Christians. I'm Christian. But we passed abortion laws, legislating something that's our morality that we think in God's eyes is right. We've passed it, we've pressed it onto other people through legislation. And you know what? We opened the door to hell. Because now what do you see the atheists doing? Legislating their beliefs onto us. And they're tearing nativity signs down during Christmas. They're taking crosses off of war memorials. They're doing what we did in abortion to them. They're doing to them, they're doing to us now. Because we thought we could legislate our values into somebody else. As long as they don't infringe on your freedom, you can't tell them what to do. And as long as they're trying to subvert those founding documents, what they stand for, you can't tell them what to do. If we don't wake up soon, we will one day wake up in hell. Not our country. And I fear that day. I fear it because I see it coming and I see people not caring. I see the scandals that this government gets involved in, like the IRS and Benghazi, these awful things. And I see the second where it seems the only thing left to do is appoint a special freaking prosecutor and actually start prosecuting people and putting them in jail, it dies out. What about Benghazi, where our president has committed treason? Do we see that even on Fox anymore? I feel like the Zimmerman trial is a distraction from that. Conveniently timed ploy to take our attention away. Because both parties are corrupt now. You got Lindsey Graham pushing drone strikes in the NDAA Act, Indefinite Detention of American Citizens. And also Lindsey Graham saying, well, you can declare somebody an enemy combatant. If they're doing this stuff here in America, then they're still an enemy combatant. That's okay with him. And there's other people that support him on that. People like Rand Paul are fighting, but there's a lot of people support him, a lot of Republicans, a lot of idiot rhinos. You know the problem with that is that they can declare you and me domestic terrorists. Because the FBI has put up documents, like the Sovereign Citizen Report, that goes out to law enforcement. And in that report, sovereign citizens are bad people. Terry Nichols and Timothy McVeigh, who bombed the Oklahoma City building, were sovereign citizens. Scary, right? But they're defining you as that. You and I. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. But LEOs, it says in the report, should watch out for people who say they're self-defined constitutionalists as possible sovereign citizens. Or people who are very pro-Second Amendment. Or people who say that they're free man. A freeman, like that, say it real quick, freeman, one word almost, he's a sovereign citizen, but we all are free men and women. Does that make me one of them? Well, it's a kind of a murky definition, murky thing right there. So I guess it could very easily be said that if they wanted to, that maybe I was. I'm not. I'm a citizen of a sovereign country. I am not a sovereign citizen. But the groundwork has been laid. And the rules are there that allow them to do those things. We are in treacherous times. And I, looking in the mirror, see a man that I would have once called a psychopath, conspiracy theorist, weirdo. But now I just see a man who will not be blind anymore, who will not lay down in the face of corruption and say, that can't be true, when so much says it is. I am an articulate, intelligent man, a free man. I am not crazy. I am not insane. I see clearly what is going on, and I see you, my government, having forgot its place. I see law enforcement in the country in their tactical dress, forgetting their place, that they have no more privileges than I do, and they are just like me. And what I can do is all that they can do. But that questions their power. And so they blatantly oppress us in their riot control gear instead of joining the rioters. We have been divided by a left that uses race and racial tension and wealth redistribution. We are being oppressed by a right-wing group of people that don't really support capitalism anymore. They support corporatism, and they are stepping on the Constitution just as much, and they support the military-industrial complex and wage war to perpetuate it. Share this so that other people may see that they're like us, not crazy. That the things that we see and we believe now that we may not have used to believed aren't not things to be ashamed of and hide in fear, wondering what people think of us, but more a cause for us to see that there are more than one of us, and time to unite and share that message and say we are not crazy and this is how bad it really is. And the more we lie to ourselves, the worse it gets. Wake up. Don't let this country die. It's your duty to not let this country die. It is your right to have freedom. It is a God-given right, and even an atheist can appreciate the line that says we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, because that says even to you atheists that nothing on this earth gives us our rights. They are ours simply because we breathe. And that means no man can take them from you but you, through your actions and your injury of other people, or your oppression of them, or you taking their freedom from them. That is all that can take your rights, is your own actions. No other man. When you lose your rights, you do it to yourself. But not anymore, because we have built a system that should have worked but not paid attention to it. And it has been usurped from us in our control, and it has been misdirected as a weapon against the people it was supposed to protect. I hate to be a naysayer, but we're really far along that path, and this ends only with violence. When do the corrupt people in power ever give up that power without a fight? When will they ever when the people in power acknowledge they are not the bosses? Man's inherently evil, strives to be good, but is inherently evil. But in those moments of darkness, we just remember that hundreds of thousands of men have sacrificed their lives in honor of this country and what it stands for. And they have shown great hope in that sacrifice. The hope that by their sacrifice this country will live. That by their sacrifice freedom will perpetuate itself and go around the world and overtake evil. And good will triumph. Let's not get bogged down in how bad things are. Let's think about how much worse they could get, but say, you know what, if I take a stand, I can change that. Because it's true. Men have fought and died believing it. Far be it from me to second guess those patriots. Far be it from all of us. Thank you for listening to me. Please share this. Please push it out there to the whole world and say, this is our call. Our call to stand for freedom, for the hope of mankind to be free, and for his right to be free. Let us honor the sacrifice of those hundreds of thousands of men that have died hoping that their sacrifice at the Tree of Liberty would perpetuate freedom by being willing to give the same measure of ourselves. I ask you, if you are not convinced that this country needs a reset to work, if you are not convinced that that is the case, follow on YouTube, click on my little avatar and go to my channel and watch No More Compromise. Listen to it. Use my words. It took a great deal of time to write them. I am talking to you, no script right now, but that is something written as proof that this has to end, and there is no other way but to stand up, whatever the cost, and change it. Don't beguile yourselves anymore. They have used fear to rob us of our common sense, reason, and logic. And whenever something bad happens, whenever tragedy strikes again, they use our fear again to strip us of more rights. And like in Boston, we often will shelter in place and go run inside our house just because we're told to. And they don't even need a guard at the front door. We just do it. Like sheep. It makes me sad. It makes me sad beyond words. Share this. Watch No More Compromise. Wake up and wake those around you up, for the time is here, it is now, it has come. The choices have to be made, and we have to stand for something. We have to not worry about what other people think, and worry about our character, our conviction, and the fact that in your heart, if you listen to what I say, you know it is true. It is undeniable. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I do. I can't give it back, and I thank you for spending it with me listening. I know I'm long-winded, but much had to be said. Have a good day. God bless America. God bless freedom and the indomitable spirit that is man.